What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast or webcast because we don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host, as always. My name is Jimmy, and we start every show off the same way with gratitude. Just want to say thank you to all of our supporters, for anyone who shared our content, bought our merch, bought our online courses at bythehooduniversity.com. We appreciate all of the support. I have my co-host with me, as always, my brother Corey. Corey, how are you, sir?
Living the life, man. I'm living the dream. Every breath I take is a breath, is a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely, man. We blessed and highly favored here. But listen, our platform, as always, is used to talk about brothers and sisters that look just like us, that are doing amazing work in the community, that are doing amazing things in business. And this guest that we have with us here is a legend. He's done so many things in marketing, promotions. He's worked with Bad Boy, the Global Spin Awards, the Vote or Die campaign. It's so many things that I can name. His resume is crazy. He's a living legend. So without further ado, I want to introduce Shawn Prez to our audience. How are you, sir?
Jimmy, Corey, what up? Thanks for having me.
Man, listen, we appreciate you giving us your time because your resume is absolutely insane. But before we get into that, we like to highlight our guests and talk about their story. So I know that you're a native of the South Bronx. But the question I have for you getting into this business, right? Someone coming from the South Bronx that was like marketing something that was like, taught to you, or was it just like what we consider hustling? Or how did you get, like, where did you go to school? How did you get into the business? I know you started as an intern, but how?
That's a long story, so I'm going to try to make it as short as possible. Marketing was not something taught to me. It's something that I came to realize I had a natural innate ability and I had an eye for it and a talent for coming up with really creative strategies and brands, but it wasn't initially taught. Like in the South Bronx, I came up in the crack era. I'm an 80s baby. It was nothing but, crack, crime, and hip hop when I was coming up, just truth be told.
Mm-hmm.
Made it out the Bronx, went to school upstate New York, SUNY Binghamton. And somewhere, I'd say around my junior year, it just wasn't for me. I was depressed. It wasn't, and here I am. I'm very popular on campus. School life, going away, for anybody who's ever been away to school, it's like living in a whole other world. Like, nothing but girls, you have your friends, you get to do whatever you want to do. But inside of me, it just, I knew whatever my life was going to become, it wasn't there on that campus. So I dropped out. And when I came home, I reconnected with a great friend of mine. And he changed my life, just to be honest, like through one sentence. He was like, yo, Shawn, you're popular and I'm a DJ. Let's just do parties. And I had nothing else to do. I just dropped out of school. I was like, why not? And through doing the parties, what I thought would become my life's work, I thought I wanted to be the biggest promoter in New York City. But I was actually introduced to becoming an entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is I thought I was just doing parties. But when you do parties, you got to negotiate with club owners. You got to go out there and find the right clubs. You got to hire a promotion and marketing staff. You got to hire an entire staff that works for you, from the door girl to security to this, that, and the third. So I thought I was falling in love with being a promoter, but in actuality, I was falling in love with the fact that I owned my first business. Like, I was making my own income. And in doing that, I started to learn how to really market and promote. I started to understand, like, what should we put on a flyer to really get people to come to our parties as opposed to the 100 other parties that's happening on a Friday and Saturday night in New York City. So that was kind of my first real exposure to marketing. And when I started to notice I had a skill for it.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So like one of our friends, Malik, who we had on here before, he's a real estate investor. And it's interesting, like, to hear your story, because he was a promoter in school in Carolina, and he talked about having to put all those pieces together as a party promoter, and how when he got in the real estate business, it was kind of easy because he's like, managing a contractor, dealing with like putting people in play. Like you're kind of a coach in essence when you're doing that. So that's interesting.
Tom said the same thing.
Yeah, Tom. It's all right. But another guy who was on, Tom, who was a real estate investor, it's the same thing. He was a party promoter. So that's interesting and I wonder how many party promoters even recognize what it is they're doing, like the skill set. you know.
Yeah, you develop a real skill set from throwing parties. And, you know, when I left school, I didn't leave school because, and I want to put this out there to people. I didn't leave school because I wasn't intelligent. I didn't leave school because I was failing my classes. I left school because I'm a person who always follows what's in here. I've always listened to God. I've always listened to, you know, when my spirit is not right, I really try to put the pieces together and figure out what is God like, what is he saying to me? And at that time, even though I didn't understand it, I had to leave school. And like I said, getting into this business, I didn't realize I was going to be developing a skill set of a marketer. I didn't realize I was going to get my first introduction to be a boss and what entrepreneurship really looks like, the inner work. That was the 101 of being an entrepreneur. But if you wanted to make money week over week, when you're having these consistent parties, you are managing an entire staff. So you had to go from 101 to 102 to now graduate courses. So if you was going to be successful at what you're doing. So I think for people who are party promoters and you know, they're the ones who are hiring the staff, you don't realize the skill set you're getting in real time, but you are definitely acquiring a life's skill set that you can apply anyway.
Yeah, that's a gem. That's an absolute gem. So how did you go from at that point promoting parties and getting good at that to, you know, getting into the industry?
You know, when I came home from school upstate, I started doing my parties and I re-enrolled in school, Lehman College in the South Bronx, for no other reason than I'm the kind of person, if I start something, I'm committed to it and I want to finish it, right? So I never thought, I never planned to use my degree. I just was like, you know what? I got like a year and a half left. Let me just go finish it. And while I was in school, this girl told me, she was like, you know, I'm doing an internship. And at the time, it was this gentleman who used to work for Uptown Records, and he came and spoke at our school, Jimmy Love. And he was talking about, you know, the best way to get into the music industry is through interning. Now, when you're a party promoter, that runs parallel to the music industry because you're hiring, you know, acts to come and perform at your party. So I was peeking into the music industry. And when Jimmy Love and the girl was telling me about going to the, you know, taking these internships, I was like, you know, I think I might like it. I'm peeking in and it looks, but here's something that I really want to put out there to your audience. And it's a lesson that I learned early. And I'm going to say as Black and brown people, we are beating our heads from the moment of birth to conform. You know, go out there and get these traditional jobs. You're not successful, or it's not socially acceptable if you do not go, you know, to school, get your degree, put your resume out there, then somebody's going to hire you. So I had a hard time reconciling with the fact that I can go this non-traditional route. Like there's this thing called the music industry. You might not need a degree for it, but you can actually become successful and you can become somebody who is looked up to and really be a power move maker and just be just as respected as a doctor, a lawyer, anything else. So for me, I had to unlearn so much of what I had been taught since birth with this conformity crap. And finally, you know, I started to take the internship and I was still doing my parties at the same time. And just being 100% truthful with y'all, it felt like I was unhireable because I literally took 4 internships unpaid. And when I say 4 internships, I'm working for 8 months at a time, a year at a time, sometimes a year and a half at a time, 4 internships. And then I took my 5th one when I was ready to throw in the towel, and finally I got a paying job in the industry.
Man, that's amazing. You gave so many gems right there. And I'm gonna tell you why. I had a conversation today with a younger person that reached out to our page, and they were talking about college and how they wanted to switch their major because they found their love, but they were also afraid of not finishing in 4 years. And it was that conformity piece. I said, so you know what you want to do, but you're gonna, you know, still stay with a major because what? Because I'm supposed to finish in 4 years. I said, why? I mean, you know, you're conforming again. You know, that's that conformity piece because we're taught all of these things. You have to do this, you have to do that, but everybody has their own journey. So I think that's an amazing story that you just told about that. All right, so just being transparent, I know a lot about like your history because as someone of color, when you see people in the music industry, what always intrigued me is the people in the business side. Not necessarily acts because I'm not a rapper, singer, or anything like that, but I love business. So when you see people of color, so I know that you worked your way up through the ranks when you through Bad Boy. What are some of the things you did to actually work your way up? Because you worked with Diddy for years. Like you've been very loyal to each other. But what was it that you did as an intern? What made you stand out to help you rise to those ranks and stay there for as long as you did?
Okay, again, and for your audience, I need y'all to really listen up. I'm gonna start with this. You gotta trust the process. In real time, I don't care what adversity you're going through. I don't care what the obstacles you're going through. This thing, me looking back, now that I'm older and I get to look back over my own life, I see it was divine. Like this thing, God had this thing planned out for me. I didn't understand it, but he did. And what I mean by that is I took internship after internship after internship after internship. It wasn't until my 5th internship, my 5th one, I landed at Bad Boy. You asked me what made me stand out? Because I came in with so much freaking experience. Everybody else was coming in. This was their first internship. When I came in, I had a different kind of hunger and a different kind of appreciation. And I understood it is a privilege. This position that I'm in, I'm at Bad Boy. Like Bad Boy was an upstart label. We were in an office that was maybe 2,000, 3,000 square feet, a very small office. Puff was a hot shot in the music industry, but he was an upstart. We didn't have no hit records at that time. Mm-hmm. But I felt privileged when I got in there and I understood that this is a place I can really make my mark. Number one, because I was taking all these internships at these quote unquote corporate record labels. And, even if I had gotten a job in those places, I'm a person who likes to go. I'm a person who likes to I don't want to come in at 9 and leave at 5. I work. They wouldn't have been good fits for me. But I was able to learn things at each of these places. And I was also able to learn that it is a privilege if you ever get hired. So when I got to Bad Boy, when they gave me a check, number one, I would be sitting at my desk, I promise you to God. And I would be looking up like, Lord Jesus, I thank you. I can't even believe that they would pay me for something that I would do for free. Like, I couldn't believe it. So I was the kind of person, I was the first one in, and I was the last one the last one to leave. I was not comparing myself against the other interns, the other assistants, coordinators, directors. To me, it was like, y'all ain't even competition. I'm looking at that man. Like, Puff, I'm looking at him. He's my competition. So if he is up at 6 in the morning, I'm up at 5. If he's going to sleep at 4 a.m., I'm going to sleep at 5 a.m. He's the person I am modeling my work. My work ethic, it has to be modeled against him. So when you are shooting for the stars, when you're shooting I was passing everybody because they wasn't on it like me. I was looking at him. They was looking at each other. So I felt like it was a privilege for me to even be in that building. I did not take it for granted. And I came in with a work ethic like nothing that they had seen because I knew how hard I worked to even get to that point.
Yeah. And, like you mentioned, you were there from the very beginning. And so how does it feel for you now looking back and see the history that you guys made? Because I know that when you're in it, you don't necessarily recognize what you're doing, or did you? But looking back now, I'm pretty sure that, those memories are just invaluable.
Yeah, you don't know it in real time. You don't know it. You don't know that, when I was a little boy, you could listen to a Motown record and it had a sound. Like, it just was a Motown sound. If you hear the Temps or you hear, Stevie, or you hear certain, like Marvin, like it was a Motown sound. For anybody who's old enough to remember that Bad Boy era, Bad Boy had a sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not only did Bad Boy had a sound, But Puff was such a visionary. He was changing culture, meaning the hip hop culture in the 90s, for anybody who's old enough to remember, it was dirty, it was grimy, it was all about wearing your pants down to your knees, you know, gold fronts in your mouth and drinking 40s. Puff came in and changed all that. Now we popping bottles. He had Biggie, black and ugly as ever. However, I stay putting down to the socks. All of that, he shifted culture. So no, we didn't understand the long-term cultural change and cultural effect that we were gonna have. For us, it was just young, hungry, Black and brown brothers and sisters who were on a mission to be the best record label in the game. And somehow we just had this worldwide effect on culture.
Yeah. So as you move through the ranks, and I'm pretty sure you did a lot of things outside of marketing, right? So you pretty much did everything. But what was it about marketing that made you stick to that and become so focused on that, and also realize that that is where your talent is?
Well, that's kind of it. I realized that's where my talent lived. Like, people have to understand. I hear people speak about, I wanna do something that I'm passionate about. People chase opportunity, people chase money, but I have found that you're only successful when you're living your life's purpose, right? But you have to be properly positioned for that life's purpose. For me, when I came into Bad Boy, I started on a street team. I started handing out flyers. I started putting poster boards up around poles. I was the guy who was running out with these Bad Boy flags and Bad Boy banners talking about Bad Boy, all of that kind of stuff. And then my first job was National Street Team Coordinator. So now I had to go on the road, market to market, state to state, and create and duplicate what we were doing in New York, create these street teams. So by the time that I started to rise through the ranks and I started to take on more responsibility, I had this vernacular and this training and marketing and this eye for it. So I was, based on my history of throwing parties, even when I was in school, I was part of a frat and we were doing parties up there. I was positioned, like I was properly positioned to take advantage of urban grassroots and alternative marketing. And I knew I was great at it. I knew I saw the world through different eyes. And then corporate America started to knock on the door. While I'm working at Bad Boy, and they saying, who is running these really out of the box campaigns? Who's the person who has these streets on fire? Everywhere we go, we're seeing, Black Rob album stuff, or we're seeing New Faith Evans. They wanted to know who was behind that. They knew it wasn't Puff. And my name started to really, move up. And I started, even while I was at Bad Boy, starting to get all of these outside accounts. But it started with, I was great at what I did. I worked extremely, extremely hard, and I was really positioned to be the best person in marketing due to my life experience. And I just embraced it.
And it's interesting when you talked about like the non-traditional route of getting to where you were, but also when it comes to marketing, you did things that were non-traditional that kind of made you stand out. It's like never like just follow, you follow, a whole different path. And for those watching, and I wasn't like joking when I said legend, you've worked with some big brands like HBO, McDonald's, Estee Lauder, Viacom. So you've worked with some big brands, but one of the things that you've worked on that actually stood out to me is the whole Vote or Die campaign, right?
Yep.
Because that was like the first time I saw that like guerrilla marketing type techniques use with voting. Now I know that you have people on the street all the time when it comes to that, but nothing like that. It was almost marketed like an album or a mixtape, which was like amazing for me to see because I'm old enough to remember that. How did that come about? Getting into the political space, but using some of those same tactics that you do in music.
Well, number one, I give credit to Sean Diddy Combs. I give credit to a woman named Mignon Moore, Alexis McGill, Andre Harrell. you know, Puff had this vision. He had this vision that he wanted to impact the youth. He wanted to really show that he had the ability to bring youth culture to the voting block. Something that, you know, this is always that elusive group that never wants to vote, doesn't see the need to vote because they're still young. They are, you know, my vote doesn't matter. You know, all politicians are the same. So he really took it upon himself to say, you know, I'm going to galvanize this constituency, and I'm going to fire him up, and I'm going to get him to the polls. And he just turned to, you know, somebody he had been working with for years, and myself. And he knew I was, number one, battle tested. I had done countless campaigns with him in the past. And we also knew, and this is what people have to understand, like, you know, and I can go so many different directions in this interviews, but I'll try to just keep it focused. But you talked about, we marketed this like an album. We knew what worked for our people. Like at the end of the day, in the world of politics, they did things a certain way. We came in with different eyes. We came in, look, we're selling gold records, platinum records, diamond records. Obviously, we know how to move the needle with our people. So forget the way y'all always did stuff. When he came to me, he said, yo, Shawn, come up with a crazy campaign, and I want to take these streets over. And that's what me and my team did. We sit down, we thought, and we were like, these are the tactics we want to do. But we modeled it against stuff that we already had known was successful. And even though we got pushback from a lot of people in the world of politics, when we finally rolled this campaign out and they saw something that they had never saw before, that's when my phone started ringing by other politicians talking about, look, I got an election coming up.
Give me one of them voter dies, yeah. That's amazing, man. And so I know that you also pivoted again, right? So, and this is what makes your career such a unique case study and amazing, right? Because you're able to pivot. And you have your own thing with Power Moves Inc., but you're responsible for the Global DJ Awards, right? And I've watched them on Revolt.
Yep.
All right, you're responsible for that. And it's interesting hearing your story. You talked about how a DJ friend came to you, so it kind of went like full circle. But so what made you come up with that idea or want to roll that out?
Okay, again, these are great questions, and I think your audience can learn from it, because I go back to what I said earlier. Trust the process. Trust God. Even when you don't understand them, just trust it. If things come in your life and you're like, Lord, why is this happening? Change that around and thank them in real time. And what I mean by that is, I told you, I started out running the national street team, and I was a beast. And my name was going up in the industry. And it was really going up. And back in those days, nobody, you know, being on a street team, that was like the low level job. That wasn't fly. It wasn't glamorous. But when you're really good at something, people take notice. And I'll never forget, there was a guy who was my partner in crime, Malcolm Miles, and he was running the mix show radio department. And me and him, he had radio, I had the streets. And we were killing it at Bad Boy. He got a bigger check at another record label, and he took it, which left that spot open. I didn't want it. I didn't feel like calling DJs. I didn't feel like calling radio programmers to get our records played, because I'm a boss. I'm hiring street teams all around the country, and I'm killing it. When you're trying to get your record played and you're trying to get it on air, you got to call the same damn DJ 50 million times, this, that, and the third. So I'll never forget, Harv Pierre came to me. And my man Mel Smith came and was like, Shawn, we want you to take over that position. I'm good. I already got a position. No, you the one. No, go hire somebody else. They refused to hire anybody else. Had nothing to do with money. They wasn't trying to save on budget. They saw something in me. I didn't see it in myself. I didn't want that position. But then finally, when I took the damn position, now I'm running a department, right? I have access to every DJ in the world, every programmer in the world, and I'm running the streets. So my name started to go like this. If you wanted to get Puff on the phone to be on your morning show, call Shawn Prez. If you needed Carl Thomas to do a show for you in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, call Shawn Prez. If you needed Shine, Faith Evans, in every Mace, anybody else to do whatever, call Shawn Prez. So my name went from, I guess I was here and I was doing my thing, to really went from here because I was at a hot label with the hottest artists in the market, and I was the conduit between you and them. Mm-hmm. And then I'm standing right next to Diddy. So what happened in terms of Global Spin Awards, you know, I'm a person, I'm always evolving. And I get bored easy. And I don't like doing what I did yesterday. And I was looking at this space, and I, you know, as you get older, and I'm sure you guys can attest, you come to a point where you just want to give back. Yeah. And I'll never forget, this is like 08, 09. You know, I really wanted to give back to that DJ community because they were the ones that helped my career so much. And I was looking, I'm like, yo, damn, there's this white space in the market. Like, you know, the Grammys recognize the artists, the Academy Awards, they recognize all of the actors, you know, with the Oscars and all of that stuff. You got every award ceremony recognizing people in their particular disciplines. But nobody recognized the DJs. And because my life was kind of changing and I hit a certain level of success and I really wanted to get back and I saw this white space and it was a new challenge, I said, you know what? Let it be me. Let me be the one that creates something that long after I'm gone, this thing will be what the Oscars are, or this thing will be what the Golden Globes are, or this thing will be what the Grammys are. And the DJs will have their place where they can shine and be recognized for their contribution to breaking music and really influencing culture.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. That's a way to give back because you know, I've watched your award show and it's amazing to see because I mean they're the ones that make hip hop, right? And for them never to be recognized like that, it's kind of crazy that space was existed. Yeah, yeah. So salute to you for that. Salute to you for that. Corey, I know you had a question, Corey. What you about to say?
So when you was in that in-between space, when you was, you know, running the street team and then you had to go to the place where you were doing the, you know, getting with the DJs, what was the impetus to say, all right, I'm going to take the job? Because you kept refusing it, you kept refusing it, you kept refusing it. And now it's like, all right, I'm going to take it. So what was the thing that pushed you to take it?
It's a great question. Looking back, and again, I always bring God into my conversations because for me, it's necessary. And I don't want anybody ever to see my story and think I am any. I'm just I'm just a dude from the South Bronx, period. And my life, I've always been tapped into my God. And when they kept coming back to me, I thought it had to be for, like, God, I'm telling them, go get the check to somebody else. I don't even want it. So I found myself praying and sitting in deep thought. And it just, I felt, and for me, whenever I'm confused about something, I really just try to zone out and get quiet. And when I come to a peace, then I know it's right. And I know it's the right way to go. And when I came to a peace, it just felt like God laid on my heart, like, this is the next step for you. This is the evolution. Because just to be honest, like I told y'all, when I was doing the street team stuff, I wasn't just doing it for Bad Boy. I was making a ton of money outside of Bad Boy. It was no reason for me to do this. It really wasn't. I couldn't see how these DJs would impact my life for years to come. But God saw it. And, you know, really, if, just to answer your question in short, I really, after turning it down so many times and seeing how persistent they were that it had to be me, I started to ask God, this can't be for no reason. You know, like, let me know, is this the space I'm supposed to be, or this the direction I'm supposed to be going? And when I felt the peace that it was, I said yes.
Yeah. So I know that now you have your own shop, Power Moves Inc., right? And You're still in the branding marketing space. So, you know, I know this is like a dumb question, but it's kind of like a commercial. What separates Power Moves Inc. from any other marketing agency?
So, you know, I'll tell you what was my first sales pitch, and it remains the same to today. We are experts in reaching Black and brown people in the areas that they live, work, and play. Why? Because we are the consumer. I know how I think. I know how the people around me think. I was born Black. I hang out with Black people. I understand the culture from the inside. And my team understands the culture from the inside. We don't talk about this from a perspective of somebody who learned marketing in a classroom. And now we're in a boardroom and we're thinking about campaigns and strategies that might connect with a consumer that we don't intrinsically understand. So for us, it's innate. It's natural. We're very good at what we do, but we are the consumer. That's what makes us stand out, to be honest.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear your story about how you got into marketing, right? So we've talked to marketing people in the past, and the funniest story is I've heard multiple people say this, is they got into marketing after watching Boomerang, right? So they didn't know what they wanted to do, but they saw Marcus Graham and they got into marketing. But anyway, your story is completely different. And I mean, you're just the overall hustler. You figured out a space within the culture, and it works for you. So let me ask you this question: along your journey, what do you say has been the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome to get to where you are today?
There's been so many. I can go back. I told you I took 5 internships. You know, people give up on themselves too early. There's so many people out there who say, I want it, I want it, I want it. Okay, well, how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough to take internship after internship unpaid? You're figuring out how to pay to get there. You can't afford lunch 5 days a week. You you have to be the one to show up because they don't care whether you come in or not. How bad do you want it? So for me, that was a major hurdle. I could go on for days and days, you know, starting my Power Moves marketing and promotion. I'll never forget walking into and I won't name these companies. You named a lot of our clients, HBO, McDonald's, ESPN, you know, we have a ton of clients, but we had to earn our way there. I remember walking into so many of these meetings. I'm 6'4", 227 pounds today. I was about 250 back then. And I'm talking to a bunch of people who didn't look like me, who were running the urban department. And
Wow.
just by virtue of my stature, it was like, hell no. They didn't care that I was behind some of these successful campaigns. It was like, I don't want to meet this guy in the elevator and be on his bad side. So to the point where I had to actually, and this is true story, I literally hired a white salesperson and made him the face of our company. And then we would take meetings to try to get urban business. And I would sit in those meetings quiet, pretending to be a worker, and have this guy as the CEO. And that's when we started to get business. So there are so many hurdles that I could talk about. I could talk about starting the Global Spin Awards. We did it in a theater that held about 350 people. The first one, at best, 120 people showed up. I had DJs pissed with me. Everything that could go wrong. I'd never done a live event in my life. In terms of a live full out production event. And, you know, we would be naming nominees and the wrong person to come up on the screen. It just was a disaster. You know, DJs was pissed because they was like, is this rigged? Show them, we trust you, but who the hell is voting? Why should we put our faith in you? I don't want to show up. I'm begging DJs to show up to the first one. But these are all hurdles that you have to overcome. And going back to the way I started it, you can't tap out too early. Everybody say they want it, but how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough to, like, for me, I can tell you, Global Spin Awards now, everybody loves it. But year after year, anybody who has been to the early ones will tell you they were disasters. We had to learn as we went. You know, people would come out and they'd be like, where's my script? What am I reading? It just was all kind of stuff going on that we just didn't know. We were learning. And I would have pie on my face, and I would be ashamed and embarrassed because in one area of my life, I'm this superstar marketer. In another area of my life, people are coming out and they're like, Shawn, we love what you're doing, but you just got to get your stuff together. But we didn't have the budgets. We were learning. How bad do you want it? Are you willing to stick with it when nobody believes? Are you willing, when you fall down 8 times, get up 9 times? That's really what it comes down to. So I've encountered so many obstacles. I just named a few.
Yeah, those are all good, and we can learn from those, right? So that stick-to-itiveness, like you just have this belief and faith in yourself, right? I think that's what it comes down to, is the belief in yourself that even if you stumble, you're going to, figure it out. Man, that's an amazing story, man. Because I know a lot of people, when they got to that 3rd or 4th internship, would have been like, let me go figure out something else to do. But you just kept plugging away, right? So to the point where when you get to internship, you're already like, some people will look down on that like, oh man, this is my 5th one and all these newbies in here. But you use that to your advantage. So that's an amazing story. But let me ask you this question.
I'll tell you a funny story, and I'm sorry to cut you off. When I got to Bad Boy was technically my first internship that was paid. We made $5 a day, which is $25 a week. At that time, you still put tokens in the train in New York City. So it was like $15 for tokens and another. Matter of fact, I'm lying. It was $5. It was $25 a week. And you had $10 for lunch. But, and I'm not going to name no names, again, it was young people running the company. And the girl who was responsible for giving the interns their money week over week had a bad weed habit. So every Friday when we were supposed to get paid, no, this is true story. It's the end of the Bible. Every Friday when we were supposed to get paid, Dredd would come to the office. And we would see dude come with the knapsack and go in her office. And at the end of the day, she'd be like, oh, there's no intern money this week. We'd be like, yo, this is the 6th week in a row. What are you talking about? There's no intern money. But she was getting high on the intern money.
But even that, you still stuck with it.
You had to. I wasn't giving up. I was not giving up.
That's right. Oh man, that's right. That's the lesson there, man. Never give up, man. Never give up. Let me ask you a question. Could you give our audience maybe a book that has inspired you or something that you look to help you along this journey?
Yeah, I can give the audience a few books. One of which is called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle, yep.
There you go. That book, I literally read it, I'd say about 4 times. Because the first, it's so deep and the concepts are just so freaking, they're just deep. My mind couldn't grasp it. And I love the way he really laid out, how he sees humanity and society going and embracing this new way of life. So that's a book for anybody who's really ready for a life change, a mindset, a change in the way you see everyday life. Pick that book up for sure. And I kind of live by mind, body, spirit. And what I mean by that is mind. At any given point in my life, I'm always in the middle of a book, or I'm always feeding my brain with something extremely positive or educational. Body, I make sure that I work out daily, that I do something that is helping to cleanse my body and keep me physically up to par. And then spirit, obviously I've spoke about God a million times in this interview because I want to stay connected to the Creator. And a second book that really you know, you find books here and there that
Mm-hmm.
have you going. This one was pretty straightforward, but it was powerful. It's about David Goggins. It's called You Can't Hurt Me. And I recommend that book to anybody who ever wants to quit. Anybody who is in the midst of a storm, in the midst of a struggle. If you think that mountain that you're climbing is too high, go pick up David Goggins. You can't hurt me. It ain't you can't hurt me. It's can't hurt me. And that will give you a different kind of battery in your back to make you get up and be like, oh, hell no. I'm ready to fight another day.
Yeah, those are some good choices. To our audience, make sure you check the recommended book section in our show notes, because we have a whole list, and we're going to add those 2 books there as well. Man, listen. So, what is the future for Power Moves Inc? What does the future look like?
Future for Power Moves Inc. is this: Power Move Maker. You know, when I was coming up, obviously Power Moves has always been my thing. You know, I'm making Power Moves. I named my company Power Moves Inc. Marketing and Promotion. And something strange happened a few years ago to me, right? And I told y'all, like as you get older, God helps you to see life through different eyes. And for me, yeah, I walk with celebrities and I made some halfway decent money in my life. But what is this life really about? It's about giving back. It's about educating. It's about inspiring. It's about teaching. And I remember sitting at my desk. This is back before COVID, obviously. And sitting at my desk in the office, and I just felt incomplete. I felt like you know, I wasn't living my life purpose again. And I really started to just try to tap into what does that mean? Like I felt unhappy, and just to be honest, I felt unhappy. I felt damn near depressed. You know, I come into the office and it just didn't feel like I was connecting with my life's purpose anymore. And I remember looking at motivational speakers and trying to give. Now here I own the company, and I'm looking at motivational speakers trying to motivate myself to do one more day at the office. And it all started to make sense to me. You know, people had always told me, Shawn, you love to talk. That's all you do. You love to talk. You love to give advice. You love to teach. And I started to think to myself, you know what? When I was coming up, what was the one thing? I mean, obviously I'm from the South Bronx, so I lacked a lot of things. But you know, the main thing that I lacked was seeing somebody who looked like me, talked like me, was from the same circumstances as me, who didn't make it out the hood by being a rapper, a sports figure, or a drug dealer. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and there just wasn't any successful ones who did it the right way that I could look at in my immediate vicinity and say, let me talk to this person. How did they get from these circumstances to building a business from the ground up? And for me, that had become my life's mission. So to answer your question, I public speak. I use my platform to really bring other brothers on who are from the same environment and have done incredible things with their life. And I sit there and I talk and I try to extract so many gems to give back to somebody who is in the South Bronx. Because this South Bronx is all over the world.
Yeah,
Y'all got them in Philly. There's somebody all over the world who is in their version of an impoverished neighborhood. And I need them to see people who didn't make it by being in front of the camera, didn't make it by bouncing a basketball or throwing a football, didn't make it by slinging drugs. And they use this. They use their wisdom. They use their smarts. And they pulled themselves up and they made something out of themselves. So that's what my life mission is right now. For anybody, please check out my YouTube channel, which is Power Move Prez, or just punch in Power Move Makers and you can find me there.
Yeah, and I've seen some of like I know you had Rodney Jerkins and Dame. I've seen on your Instagram page as well. So and that is important. It's important for a lot of platforms to highlight that, because one of the reasons we do what we do, and I'm always surprised, like to this day, when people say, man, I didn't know that, Black people did this or did that. Like there's a lot of us out here doing amazing things in different spaces. Like,
Yep.
Definitely fill those inboxes where people be like, I didn't know Black people did that. And I'm like, yo, it's 2020. Black people do everything, man. Like, what are you, I want to say, what are you talking about? But then I remember everybody ain't raised in the same environments.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of Black people raised around non-Black people.
And
so,
representation matters. Like it's like the story I told earlier, where people telling us that Marcus Graham is a character that Eddie Murphy played. But the fact of the matter is, because that's where they saw marketing for the first time. They saw that, hey, that's a career in that. So it's important for your platform. So we'll definitely put the link to that in the description as well. Listen, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us. We definitely appreciate it. Like I said, we know your history because you were that for us, like someone who didn't hold the microphone or didn't shoot basketball, but made it a different way. So I just want to say thank you and continued success with everything you're doing.
Can I bring up one more point before we
anything you want?
I love that you said this, and we spoke offline, and you said the same thing to me. And I would implore anybody who is out there. My grandfather told me when we were young, he always iterated, work hard, even when you think nobody's looking, because you never know whose eyes are on you. I could have never known that you knew who a Shawn Prez was. I could have never known that from afar, I would in some way be an inspiration to you guys. Who could know that? So for anybody out there, give it your all. I don't care if you're sweeping floors. I don't care if you're dumping trash. I don't care what it is. You treat it like you are. When I was an intern making that $5 a day, and even when I was making no money, I treated it as though I was making $1 million a year. And because of that is what made people notice me. And now that I'm older, it's so crazy to me to hear people like yourself talk and say, you know what, we know your history. And call me a legend. It's like, yo, when did I get that place? It's crazy to me.
Yeah, because
we came up in the same era, but we saw your work. You know what I mean? Like we've actually seen your work in real time.
And that's the thing, right? So I was, one of those kids who read Black Enterprise because I'm like, I like business, but I want to see people that look like me. So then when back in the day, when it was CDs, you would get the album and you would like go through and see who the street team was, who the producers was, all the people who weren't necessarily the talent, but and you start to look up and follow those people because again, in that space, you see a lot of people that look like us. And I want to know who are the guys that make things behind the scenes. So anytime you see a big act, everybody has a team. You could be the biggest entertainer in the world. There's a whole team behind them. So I was always interested in who's making it happen. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of unsung heroes, and I'm pretty sure you have names upon names of unsung heroes in the business. So I just think that you guys are just as important as the people whose face are on the screen every day. Because you make it happen.
So you guys, what you guys are doing, I applaud you, and I told you offline, and I'll say it publicly. And I'm a man who's very, very true to my word. Consider me an ally. Consider me a brother. I love what y'all are doing. We are like minds. And if y'all ever need me, like I'll give you my number offline. We ain't gonna do it.
I got you, no doubt.
But all it is a phone call. And if I got the time and I could do it, I promise you I'm there because I think your mission and what y'all are trying to do for our people, I love it. And you need to be applauded and saluted.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Yeah, and listen, we're going to share this everywhere. All of our audience, make sure you share this. Make sure you check out what Shawn Prez has got going on. Also, check out his history because, he just like I said, he is a legend. So, and you'll see that when you go to look. You can just look him up. You know what I mean? Like, look him up and see what he's done. Do your Googles. But again, I just want to thank you for your time. And like I said, you can look forward to us supporting anything you do as well because we love your mission as well. And to our audience, we want to say thank you again. Make sure you share, like this. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating. But we appreciate all the support. And as we always say, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much you keep. Game elevates, and we'll check y'all on the next episode. Peace.